Charlotte.
Charlotte.
My dear Charlotte.
My dear Charlotte.
Yeah, treating us bad.
Matthew VooDoo.
Yeah.
And the Matthew VooDoo.
Matthew VooDoo, man. That storm was epic, man.
How do you do the voodoo that you do? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I noticed you change your camera angle, Cliff. I'm a big fan. I like that angle.
Yeah, actually, you know what? This is the camera off the Mac, not the one that's going out live to everybody. So
you're kind of like one of those do-your-own-stunts kind of guy.
Yeah.
Oh, so actually, I just get to see the side shot.
Sorry, dude.
Well,
objects in your camera may appear
full south end of the mule. Everyone else gets the good
better
stuff.
than they are. Welcome to Right Sides Radio. Right Sides Only Radio, dude. We got to shorten that name. I always drop the only there.
We can't shorten it. There's no shortening the name.
Right Sides Only Radio
Right
podcast.
Sides Only Radio, yeah. Right Sides Only is actually it's a crew chief call.
Yeah, it is.
You can't just, if you cut the only off.
I giggle every time I hear it.
Yeah, you never know. Obviously, a lot of people right now in the current climate that we're in might fall under the pretense that we're a politically charged show.
I know. I thought about that.
Au contraire.
Yeah.
I do, however, want to state for the record that this is going to be a beautiful show. We're very proud of it.
It is a beautiful show. It's going to be great.
Beautiful. We're going to build a wall around the show, and you're going to pay for it.
Yep. Everybody dive in with us.
It's very beautiful.
It is beautiful. It's going to be great. We spent a long time.
Very proud of it.
Yeah. Cliff Doherty, Evan Stark, Right Sides Only Radio. It's Monday night doing the show.
We are competing with the ever-famous. It depends. If you're a football person, then we're competing with Monday Night Football. If you're a pure red-blooded American, then we ain't competing with nothing because we're talking about NASCAR.
We're talking about NASCAR.
There you go.
If you really, truly have your priorities straight, we know where you're at right now.
You better get right with the Lord. And if not, get right with Right Sides Only Radio.
You know what I got to get right is my chair here, dude. I told my wife yesterday to go.
See, I knew I was getting the bad angle.
See, there you go. Yeah, I just feel like I was sitting on the ground there. We're all good now. No, the wife went out to the grocery store yesterday. I told her, I said, hey, back off the cookies. Don't bring me back anything but like carrot, rabbit food. Fruits, vegetables.
Yeah,
I'm going to see you in Homestead in about a month or so, and I want to make sure I'm making a good impression with you. So
you want to make sure you put your best foot forward for at least for the next month.
If you're watching us over at Facebook on our Facebook page, facebook.com, search for Right Sides Only Radio. Evan and I are doing a live stream out there right now. But yeah, this camera definitely has nothing to do with the weight that you see proudly displayed on top of me at this moment. This is all mine.
I always tell people the camera doesn't add 10 pounds, but the fork does. So, thanks. I'll be here.
We got to get a sound effect for that. Gonna wing that kind of stuff out.
I'll be here all night.
Well, fortunately for me, I've had today off. I was off for Columbus Day, so I've had some time to get some stuff done around the house here today. You look like you're enjoying yourself, though.
Well, so the rumor is that Columbus discovered America. Uh-huh. So, what did you discover today?
What did I discover today?
Do I even want to know?
That I had 8 hours of just time on my hands that I could do. I don't know about you, dude. When I'm home alone and there's like nobody here and I got that much time, I get paralyzed. It's like, what do you start with first, right?
Is
it
absolutely.
The garage? Is it the yard? Is it, I'm going to hear this. I'm going to hear, did you give the dog a bath? Did you wash your truck? All this other sort of stuff. And the answer is no, I didn't do it.
No, because to me, I laid around, drank beer, and took belly button lint. Seems really like a task that needed to happen, quite frankly. So
it's it was a good day, good long weekend, and especially sitting around waiting for the race. So due to Matthew,
I got to tell you, man, this race, and we were joking about it before the show, folks. I'm not even sure. It looked like as the weekend progressed,
it looked like what?
It was already getting more and more suspect as the weekend went on.
Sure.
So I'm thinking they are going to have to call this race. What happens? At least it was in Charlotte, right?
Right.
So you figure, at least everyone gets to go home. At least, not Barney Visser and gang, obviously.
No.
But if you're stationed out of North Carolina, your wife and your kids, and they don't have to hop on a plane and all that stuff. So it's actually pretty convenient. But I'm thinking, so what happens if the weather gets so bad? What do they do to this race? Is it going to be Monday? Is it going to be? Because I don't know if people have been noticing. North Carolina's they got pummeled.
Oh, yeah.
So they were talking about dams potentially rupturing and colossal flooding and huge damage. And I hate to say it, but this weekend, in a way, I mean, my heart goes out to the families that were affected. Our very own Batman was actually impacted. I believe she lost a trash can.
Yeah, and a palm frond or two.
And a palm frond, right. But we're going to help her rebuild.
Yeah.
So we're gonna send her a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
GoFundMe.
Get yourself a Starbucks. It'll be all right.
But I feel really bad.
Yeah.
Well, in North Carolina, they're like fighting this colossal storm. And then who would have thought that somehow or another out there, and I wish we had mystical music playing in the background, that this tropical weather would bring in such weirdness.
Yeah.
Such oddities, if you will.
Yeah. You weren't expecting a hurricane in October?
I'm talking about what happened on the racetrack. More than
Oh,
anything else.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Shit.
now the whole fall storm thing is a little
but
peculiar,
the weather's been killing us for weeks on races, dude.
Well, I know, but this was really peculiar. I think this storm blew something in from offshore.
What did it blow? What did it bring us?
It blew VooDoo.
It blew VooDoo. There you go, folks.
It blew VooDoo.
There you go, folks. We were waiting for it, and you brought it. Good delivery, dude.
Thank you. That was, and man, you set that right up on the tee too. There's no way I was missing that one.
Hey, it's all for you, bud. You know what? Let's get some business out of the way, though. We're on Facebook right now, live videoing. If you guys want to go over there and check out our Facebook live video, you can take a gander at Evan to see that this guy really does exist, and he really does speak this way. So we got that. And then if you have an opportunity, go check out a lot of the great partners that we have with Nectar Sunglasses. We still have a promo code available if you follow us on either our website, which is rightsidesonlyradio.com. We have promo codes available over there. Check us out on our Twitter feed.
And y'all
we got stuff all over the place. Yeah,
they've been out there buying sunglasses, Cliff.
Yeah,
I've been getting steady reports from Nectar that people are out there buying the goods.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you something, folks. If you're out there, man, take a picture of those rascals.
Yeah.
Tag Cliff and I, and tag Nectar Sunglasses. Let them know that let them know Large Marge sent you, I guess is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. No, I got me a pair of them Sunnies, and I rock those every now and then. And, they look good. They're great glasses, very affordable. You save a little money by using our promo code, and should be all good. You guys check it out. Nectar Sunglasses.
Cliff and I did not coordinate the outfits either, by the way. So if you're wondering,
why there's so much red on the video, this was not intentional. I was actually surprised. When I saw you hop on the video tonight, I was thinking, shit, I gotta go change my shirt. So yeah,
we probably should. We should probably talk first before we. But hey, man,
that'd be good.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's all right. People.
So big shout out to Nectar Sunglasses. Yeah. Thank you all for all the love. Thank you for going out there and buying product. By the way, that promo runs till the end of the year. So take advantage. Holidays are coming up.
Yeah,
but that's not all.
No.
That's not all, Cliff, and you know this. We were posting banners on Twitter, so y'all know what's coming. I have to give a huge shout-out to Zip Air Tool USA, at Zip Air Tool USA.
Mm-hmm.
They have been pounding the pavement and knocking on doors. Isaac Fitzwater and gang has been promoting Right Sides Only Radio with every single effort that he has. Actually got us on his race car, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And for some lucky caller, actually for two lucky callers, if you call into the show tonight and you talk about your race experience or you talk about whatever subject we happen to be on, Zip Air Tool is actually going to give away one of two different items. One of which it appears to be a really gnarly looking saw.
There you go.
The other one appears to be one of their ever-famous impacts, which, by the way, are absolutely legendary.
Sure.
Reliable, hardworking, just like us.
Yeah, there you go. And in order to get those, like Evan said, you got to call in. So we want to hear from you. Share your race weekend if you were out at Charlotte, or watch the race, or give us some thoughts, some insight, that sort of thing. We're going to have to try to take like the first two callers. So whoever shows up, that number to join is 855-482-7223. It's a toll-free number. We won't share your information with anybody else other than Zip Air Tools, so they can get those awesome tools out to you guys. But like I said, the phone line's open, 855-482-7223 when you get a chance. Let's hear it. Let's hear what you thought of Charlotte, because I'm telling you right now, what Evan and I have been discussing offline before we got on the air tonight, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. I mean, it was obviously the big news is a Jimmy Johnson win for the Chase, right? Advances himself to the final 8 at this point.
Breaks the streak.
24 races it's been since old JJ's sealed one up there. So obviously a lot to talk about there.
And I mean, he broke it down in true Chad Knaus, true Jimmy Johnson 48 team fashion too. Right. This was a top down success for the 48 team. They and I hate to gush, but I have to give credit where credit is due. They appeared to just outclass everybody else's in, hey, he's a classy guy.
Right.
I mean, in regards to racing.
Right.
Their pit performances, they might have not have been 100% happy with them because they're always so critical of themselves.
Yeah.
But their performance on the track was absolutely stellar. It was like that car came to life.
Yeah.
And you know Jimmy, I mean, you don't even have to give Jimmy a perfectly good handling car. You can just give Jimmy something he can work with.
He can work on, yep. Absolutely, giving some of that feedback. And, we had talked about that before we started the show tonight. And, one of the obvious, I mean, it's kind of crazy when you look at, some of these starts that these Cup drivers get in the beginning of these Chase races. Jimmy Johnson obviously doing very well, but once he got himself out in front, I mean, he put himself, gave himself a lot of room there at certain points, and especially during the finish with Matt. I mean, Matt just didn't have it in the number 20 car to catch up to Jimmy there at the end, even though he was contending him early on after that restart for that. So, the 48 team, obviously, just like a lot of teams that we see, they, Harvick did the same thing last week, right? I mean, they just show up and clearly dominate, get themselves so far out ahead there that there's just no catching them by anybody else. So, hats off to the 48 team for that win yesterday. I know that a lot of fans were obviously waiting to see the 48 finally show up in victory lane, and which they did. They, we've talked about, and I was listening to some others today about, the summer slump for that 48 team. I think that, they've kind of dealt with that year over year. It's expected at this point in time, but whatever that is that 48 team does when it really starts to matter and when it really needs to count, they've certainly not fallen down on themselves to make it to victory lane and advance through the Chase here. So,
no, I mean, let's face it. When a team wins 5 championships in a row, how high? So basically, from that point, I mean, you can't very well anticipate or expect that they're just going to continue winning championships year after year after year.
Right.
The teams have all gotten a lot more competitive. The packages have changed. The drivers have all had to adapt. So the 48 team is a team that I think has gone probably a little bit underspoken, I guess, if you want to choose that right, because they have had some issues. They've had issues basically since the beginning of the season. They came out, they won a couple of races, they kind of locked themselves into the chase, and they've kind of laid dormant.
Right.
Cliff and I have made repeated comments, we've kind of dropped these morsels in the woods about these little Hansel and Gretel, breadcrumbs, about the 48 teams just kind of playing around.
Yeah.
They're both, Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus are both two very calculating people in this sport.
Yep.
And we have also talked about momentum. So you want to talk about a great time to catch fire if you're Jimmy Johnson and the 48 team. You want to talk about a bad time for Jimmy Johnson to catch fire if you're everybody else.
Right.
Because the guy has proven, I mean, Kyle Busch won the championship last year, and of course before that it was Kevin Harvick. So they actually know how to succeed, or at least they've experimented with succeeding in the chase format. Jimmy Johnson has won 6 championships, people.
Yeah. 6-time champion, and hits a little soft spot there every now and then, but certainly the team has the ability to come back. Here's my question for you, though, Evan. So check this out. When being Jimmy Johnson fans, and like I said, we expect that, they kind of go through their summer slump. They got burned by the $20 part last year and, weren't able to advance, which I think, everybody was a little blindsided by that one, including that whole team. But, the fact is that, you can't count count out that team with Hendrick, right? I mean, there's certainly a lot of momentum, a lot of brain trust behind obviously Chad Knaus and the rest of the engineering team. And then, like you said, they deliver to Jimmy something that he can work on and work with as he advances through a race. So it's no shock, right, that we see Jimmy come back yesterday. I think it was a little... the activity I heard out there on XM radio or on Twitter or whatever, a lot of people were actually writing him out at this point, which I was shocked about, you know.
Yeah, you can't
now,
do that.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. They had talked about that and saying, you know, there were several people that were not counting on Jimmy really to be advancing that because of before Charlotte, that, you know, they were concerned about whether they were going to be able to get a win because they hadn't had one in the last 24 races, right? But here's a lesson to be learned by all of us is that for sure now they've kind of put their stake in the ground and saying, look, we cannot count out this 48 team. Right? And like you and I had talked about right before we started the show tonight, the fact that we're headed into Kentucky, or Kansas. So as they're headed into Kansas, I mean, he still has a lot of opportunity. The black cloud that's hanging over everybody's head right now is Talladega, right? But now after yesterday's race in Charlotte, what we're looking at with those four that are below the cut line, business is about to get really, really serious for a lot of folks in that garage this next week.
Well, and guess what? You know, Jimmy's the threat at Kansas, too. Mm-hmm. Jimmy's a guy who knows how to win in Kansas as well. Right. So, I mean, here's the deal. And I know every single driver in this sport is competitive, and we all know that. And this isn't going to, I hope that I don't undermine, I hope I don't undermine that spirit.
Right.
But you have never heard Jimmy Johnson or Chad Knaus say, oh, you know, we're really happy with fifth place in those 48 Lowe's Chevrolet.
No, that ain't
never. Those two are always out. I know all these drivers are. They just seem to have an intensity about them that it seems to transcend most people. So, to me, what Sunday said is, oh, no. 48 teams back.
Right.
Media was wondering where the 48 team went. 48 teams here now. So
right.
It's going to be interesting to watch what they manage to pull together. And I'll be honest with you right now, I would be really, really concerned about them.
Yeah. Well, so, you know, when we get into breaking down the chase grid where we're at right now, I mean, there's so many that are still very much in the contention and obviously having bad races, right? I mean, as we go, when we get into this final 8 right here, and especially over the next 2 weeks as we continue to pare down whoever will finally end up in that final 4, things aren't looking good for at least a couple people that I'm really shocked at that are sitting in below that cut line right now. One mainly Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano, right? Those two right now, I haven't seen, or I don't know that we've seen this level of Cup driver be below the cut line this early on in the chase.
Well, and you know, it's kind of interesting that you bring that up, folks. And here's why. Cliff and I have decided to create a new segment. So if you want to bring us into the new segment?
Sure. We'll go ahead and do it. We'll go ahead.
You'll hear about it on Tuesday.
You're going to hear about it on Tuesday.
Let's hear it again.
You'll hear about it on Tuesday.
That's the new segment where you're going to hear about it on Tuesday. Brought to you by
Zip Air Tool USA.
That's it.
So we talked about Charlotte and the Matthew VooDoo.
Mm-hmm.
There has been no better example of absolute chaos seen in the Cup garage than Sunday. I mean, it almost seemed like if you were a chaser, and here's the interesting thing, Jimmy has been battling for a win the entire season.
Right.
You've got these guys who have been banging out runner-up, second, third, fourth, fifth place wins all season and can't even finish on the lead lap. Some of them didn't even finish the race.
Yeah.
So, and guess what? 06 time, he storms the gates and snatches a win and locks himself in. Basically, all he has to do right now is keep showing up.
Right. For now.
For
2 more weeks he can do that. Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
I mean, and Cliff and I are texting, and you'll have to realize that Cliff and I communicate constantly. So during the race, we're like texting each other about the race. Since we're not sitting next to each other in the man cave drinking a few beers, which would be nice. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of waiting for the bottom to fall out. We're waiting for the shoe to drop. And then it starts, and then all of a sudden it just starts clicking.
Falling apart.
It
does.
So,
and that's, what's interesting to me, especially about this chase race, and we talked about it on our last episode. This chase race, to me, has not quite hit that pinnacle of excitement that we've seen in the prior 2 years since the introduction of this current format. The first year, epic, had a great time. Second year, you knew where the tensions, you knew the gaskets were going to blow for certain teams and certain people and that sort of thing. Now, as we go into this third year of this chase format, to me, dude, I don't know how to put my thumb on it just yet, but watching the teams and what they've done through the regular race season up until this chase this year, they're still playing. Here's the one that boggles my mind, dude. Denny Hamlin blowing a motor, and then Carl Edwards commenting on the fact that he was surprised that his motor held together for as long as it did in order for him to finish the race. So in my mind, I keep thinking about that and going, what is it specifically? Obviously we know these teams all do different things and that sort of thing. We know the TRD partnership across Joe Gibbs and Furniture Row and everything else. We get all that, right? But here's the deal. What is it that you could possibly play? Parts fail, things happen, but I'm a little concerned when it's likely to happen to yet a second car in a chase race like Carl Edwards, the same thing that happened with Denny Hamlin. We had talked about, sorry, dude, not to cut you off, but we talked about this through the regular season of the test and tune races, right? And to me, like I said earlier, was, this chase race doesn't seem to have that element of excitement and just go for it. Whereas I sense as a fan that those teams are still kind of holding a little bit back to me. They're strong. There's some great strength out there. Truex. Obviously, Jimmy Johnson, the 4-car with Harvick. There's still a lot of great strength. To me, Keselowski and Logano are still a huge mystery to me. What is it that they're doing specifically, Because it appears to me that it's not working the way you would expect in light of how the last 2 seasons have gone.
Well, and the interesting thing about this, and you brought up Martin Truex Jr. So last week, all the 78 fans, and let's face it, everybody should be a 78 fan. Mm-hmm. Let's say that you're not rooting for him to win the championship because you want your driver to win. Cliff and I totally understand that.
Right.
We all some people secretly have their drivers like me. I secretly have a driver that I kind of pull for. Cliff has a driver that he pulls for. So we all kind of have that nation, right?
Sure.
Martin Truex Jr. is an anomaly in the respect that it's really hard not to want that guy to succeed. Even to the point that maybe you're just about willing to let him beat your guy to do it.
Right.
But realize this, people, if you haven't, that going into Kansas and going into the holiest of holies, Talladega, Martin Truex Jr. and Denny Hamlin are battling for the last berth into the championship 8.
Yeah.
Let me repeat that. The 78 car, who has basically shown nothing but domination the entire season, is now battling just to survive in the top 8.
Yeah.
So that's how dynamic. And guess what?
Yeah.
Martin Truex Jr. was actually battling for the lead, or at least runner-up, the better part of the race. Had a very fast car. Final pit stop, some type of electrical snafu. They never could quite get their head around.
Right.
And he winds up having to start 16th with just a handful of laps to go.
Right.
Right? Denny Hamlin, hand grenades a motor. Bang. He's out.
Yeah.
But earlier on in the race, much earlier on in the race, is the 4-car of Kevin Harvick. And I mean, the car shut down to the point where they had to push it into the garage. Thank God for his pit stall. It was really close. And they had every single Hendrick engineer they could possibly muster in the garage.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, but that's the thing, though. You know, you look back at a few weeks ago when Harvick was basically losing positions due to pit crew challenges and that sort of thing, changes up the pit crew, took a couple from Danica's team, made some adjustments and that sort of thing. Here's the irony of this, right? So obviously ECU failures have not completely, sent Harvick losing his mind, the way the pit crew did. The pit crew was, look, I'm tired of being a cheerleader for these guys. They're not doing their job, right? So let's make the big sweeping changes. However, when you look at his comments after yesterday's race and losing power in his race car, he seemed a little more subdued. And I guess that's where... Here I go, Evan. Ready for it? Here comes the black helicopters and conspiracy theories. To me, sometimes I wonder if these guys know that they're trying certain things, because if you've noticed lately, a lot of talk out there from drivers and from teams, they've picked out what tracks they're really good at. Right? So they've kind of, when you look at the different races through the chase, all 10 of them, when you look at each one of those, you have to think that everybody in that garage has kind of aligned themselves and their efforts to where they know they're the most likely to be the strongest. And that's not to say that they're dismissing races, whether it's Kansas or Chicagoland, the start of the chase, or Phoenix or any of that other stuff. I think they're looking at it from the angle that we know that we're likely to be the strongest at X, track X, whatever that is for them.
Right. Well, I heard a soundbite from Mr. H. It was actually this morning. I was listening to the rerun of Claire B. Lang interviewing, Jimmy Johnson and the runners-up, and actually everybody in the Hendrick garage did really well this weekend. By the way, if you weren't they really did. It looks like they have whatever it was they were suffering from, they've turned it around.
Yeah.
And Mr. H made a very profound comment that we've probably heard a lot, but when it comes from someone like Mr. H, obviously you listen, right?
Yep.
He made the comment, he said, we're really, Casey, it looks like maybe we found something. And he said, he finishes in the top 10, which is a good thing, because if you keep finishing in the top 10, eventually you're going to find a win.
Yeah.
Right? So you keep dabbling up front. Eventually, you're going to find what it takes to move from 5 to 1 or from 10 to 1.
Right.
And that is why the issue with Kevin Harvick, actually, when you look back, it seems it's almost dogmatic, like he has this black cloud.
Yeah.
It's so painful because Harvick is a guy who's capable of running top 5 every single weekend.
Right. Yeah.
And then basically it's going to come down to a restart or who grabs tires or maybe sometimes he just doesn't have the car.
Right. Well,
so I think with your from 15 back, maybe it comes down a lot more to who races better where. But when it comes to your top 10, your elite level teams have pretty much locked that down. It's going to be a Joe Gibbs or a Hendrick or a Stuart Haas.
Right.
Obviously, it's going to be Kurt Busch right now or Kevin Harvick. But
yeah,
that's going to be painful. But I wonder what that does to the psyche of a driver.
Well,
you can do everything right, get the pole, you're starting from the front, you're fresh off of a win that basically locked you into the championship 12, so you feel that rush of fresh, cool air in your face.
Yeah.
And then, bam.
Yeah. Well, here's the irony, though, too, dude. I think that yesterday, Hendrick showed up, they showed up with two really strong cars. One was obviously the 48, and the other one was the 24, dude. Chase looked like we picked it. I wrote it down right here. Yeah, last week we picked the 4 and the 24, dude.
Yeah, we sure did.
And I wrote it down. The number 4, obviously, Grenade had that ECU issue. Chase Elliott, dude, getting caught up in that wreck yesterday. He was the dominant factor out there. I think that had he been able to slip by that wreck that ultimately ruined him for the day, that we probably could have seen Chase's first rookie win of the season.
You know, because think it was. You think it was the Russians? No, this is the truth, folks. If you listen to last week's show, we picked the 20. I picked the 4, and I have a long. Just so you'll know, I don't like to fanboy. But I guess my admiration for Kevin Harvick dates a long ways back, before he actually moved up into the Cup Series, but in particular when he was given the shadow he had to step into after Dale Sr. died. So, I picked the 4-car because the 4-car just typically seems, let's face it, I mean, the 4-car is always someone that you seem to have to fear, and Kevin always has that edge. He always carries that swagger with him.
Right.
And, of course, who doesn't want to see Chase Elliott, especially in the chase, a rookie in the chase, actually win in the chase would just be monumental, right?
Yeah.
So we actually picked the 4 and the 24, and just kind of tongue-in-cheek. I mean, obviously, it doesn't mean anything. There's no money on the line or anything.
I can randomly pick a number and go with it.
But to have seen that restart, and I just remember covering my face, I thought, God, by no fault of his own, Chase, and you know what? He handles it like a pure gentleman too.
Yeah. Yeah,
like, hey, man, that's racing. What are you going to do, you know?
And he's always had that same sentiment and that same attitude, which is great for everything that he gets himself into. And occasionally he'll take the blame if he feels it's appropriate, and otherwise he downplays, whatever altercation he ends up getting into. But the fact is, like I said, early on, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Hendricks obviously got some voodoo going on for those cars right now, because I'm telling you, had Chase not gotten caught up in that wreck, I think that what we would be looking at today is either his first win of the season, including advancing himself to the next round. I figure if there was any other car out there that could probably challenge Jimmy for the win yesterday, it was that 24 car. Kenseth was quick. Look and here's the other thing. I mean, we've seen a lot of fantastic moves by some of these Cup teams where they're starting in the back, right? I think it was it Truex over at Dover last week or something like that, where he got thrown to the back 2 or 3 times, and have been able to eat their way up through the field and end up still contending for a win. Kenseth started at the end of the field yesterday and ended up second.
And by the way, he gave the 48 car a heck of a run for the money too, by the way.
To a point.
I mean, to a point, and then it seemed like that 48 car just grabbed just the perfect piece of road, and that was it. I mean, he was absolutely gone. I mean, once that car hooked up, it seemed like there was nothing you could do to catch him. Yeah,
and Jimmy made that comment. He said, because they had asked him in victory lane, they said, look, you've been running the bottom most of the, or the top most of the, or the middle top, whatever you want to call it, and, why'd you choose that inside line for the restart? That's where Kenseth seemingly had him. But by Kenseth's own admission, he basically said, look, I just didn't have the long-run car to be able to catch up with Jimmy. He was gone,
right.
So, that strategy there, I mean, it comes down to so many simple things like that, between starting the inside, starting on the outside. How's your car going to perform? And Jimmy even said it. I think Jimmy was shocked that he got such a launch off that restart by taking the bottom groove there, and he actually mentioned, look, I seemingly found a little bit more speed than I had seen previously through the course of that race.
Sure.
But, go ahead.
No, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, like I said, it was masterfully ran and executed race by the 48. There were a lot of other very credible, very dangerous drivers that by no fault of their own are now sitting dangerously on the outside of not even making it into the championship 8.
Right.
So, what are you going to do?
Now, everybody seems to dread Talladega going into
And, by the way, it was cheating, because I'm not reading anything about laser inspection failures after the race.
Not after the race,
come out
anyways.
yet. So.
Yeah. Although I saw a flared fender skirt on the inside. But, we can always blame that on the track,
Yeah, they're hitting 200 miles an hour. Cars are sucking down close to the track. They're putting all that tape on the grill.
Then why don't the other 30 of them have it?
It's because they can't afford the tape. That's why.
No, it's funny stuff. Listen, everybody, still, we have the phone lines open, 855.
I can't believe nobody wants free air tools.
Air tools, Evan.
Free air tools.
I'll tell you what, dude. You dial 855-482-7223, and I'll dial it, and we'll both win them.
There you go. Locked up.
Fine. Nobody wants our tools.
Nobody wants our tools.
Yeah.
You all think we're tools.
This feels like high school all over again.
We'll show you. We'll show you.
Yeah.
That's okay because eventually the nerds win. So we end up running the world. So how you like that?
Absolutely. What else we got to cover? I mean, we had the Xfinity, so I know this is kind of a big moment, possibly for you, talking about the Xfinity.
Oh yeah, you're reading my text messages, so you know.
Yeah.
Just as an FYI, it looks like Joey Logano has actually found his way into the Xfinity Series chase, so we got that
Joey.
going for us.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with you, man. I've been trying to keep my mouth shut and just trying to toe the line, but I have it's hard enough to watch. During the regular season, it's like whatever.
Yeah.
But during the chase, I just want to see the Xfinity guys battle it out for a championship.
Yeah.
And I for whatever reason, I have a hard time holding that back.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand you have to do what you have to do, and you got to bring the money in somehow. But Joey's in a new car. It looked like it. The 12?
Yeah.
The experimental Penske car they're going to roll out in 2017? Maybe?
Yeah. It's been out there a couple times now. I think he and Brad ran it at, was it Chicago they ran it, I believe? Maybe
I just wasn't paying close enough attention, but I got to be honest with you. You could tell by the tone in my text that
I can see it on your face right now.
I was just a little soured by the whole experience, and it's not a knock against Penske, it's not a knock against Joey Logano, and it's not a knock against Brad Keselowski. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's got nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with the Elliott Sadlers and the Eric Joneses and the Daniel Suarezes. That to me is what it's about.
Yeah.
So it's really not about bashing somebody else. It's about trying to lift these other guys up who are trying to make a future.
It's about, dude, I don't know what episode it was. Somebody's got to explain to me what the Xfinity series is truly for. If we see, what have we heard so far this year, Evan? We heard, well, it helps me get prepared a little better for, again, track X, fill in the blank.
Which is a diabolical lie in this case, because the Cup drivers had already ran the Cup race, which I understand. Talk about hard to find a driver, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, let's think about it for a minute. We heard Brad say that he was it Watkins Glen he did it at, or at Sonoma, where he ran the Xfinity car in order to, fine-tune the thing or whatever. We even talked about that, right?
Well, Kyle has said it repeatedly. It offers him some sort of feedback. I don't know what that feedback is, but some sort of feedback. I mean, the cars are two completely different cars. The Xfinity cars, I think, are probably a little more stable at speed than the Cup cars are. So I don't know what they're trying. But I just, like I said, during the regular season, it's like, okay, I guess there's some amount that you're just going to have to deal with. But when you've got people battling for a championship, I guess it would be like racing for a Sprint Cup championship, and they throw Cliff and I out in the middle of the track in a couple of old 1973 Squire wagons.
Right.
And we're running all over the track, and we're blocking all the leaders from lapping us, right?
Yeah, moving
to
chicane.
Me, that's what it seems like. It's like, okay, so Cliff and I become the rolling chicane at Charlotte.
You know what, dude? Honestly, if I really think about it, that's the only real thing I can think that would. There's got to be some benefit here somewhere. This cannot be. Well, we've laid down millions of dollars worth of stickers on this car, so therefore we want the best opportunity to see this thing in victory lane. That can't be the only.
We know the wraps are not that expensive, and let's face it, what everybody is picturing right now is Cliff and I tooling around Charlotte Motor Speedway in a 1973 Squire wagon.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody denied it. That's what y'all are. Right now, you have forgotten everything else we just said.
I saw a badass one on Gas Monkey Garage today, so maybe that's the one we could tool around.
Yeah. Because I got to be honest with you. And Cliff trying to hold me in the car. I'm like, got my head hanging out the door.
Sitting in the
head
back
hanging
seat.
out the window like a basset hound.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Staring out that back window, dude, making faces at the guys behind you. That'd work.
So, I mean, I don't know.
It's wrong. It's just wrong.
I hate to be negative because it's just so not what we try to bring to the table. We try to bring positive. But the reality, if you want to be realistic and you want me to be honest, it left a really bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
So,
well, the runner-up, though, was yet another Cup driver.
Elliott Sadler.
Well, no, Larson, too, right? I mean, you had Larson. Didn't Joey take the lead away from Larson after that restart?
The runner-up in that race was actually Elliott Sadler, which I wasn't too terribly depressed by. Because,
yeah, I could be wrong there, but I thought it was Larson and Joey on the restart there, and Joey got in front of Larson. Maybe Sadler got in front of Larson after that fact, but I don't know, dude. Yeah, I agree with you, though, and especially for the stuff that we talk about, right? We try to focus on these up-and-coming drivers, people who are obviously, we talked about Cassie Gannis, overcoming obstacles. So with this series, the other thing I have a hard time believing, though, is that the Xfinity series is somehow held hostage to money or advertisers or sponsors or whatever, because again, look at the standalone race they had a couple weeks ago. I mean, that was basically whatever. I don't want to say this, the seats were empty, but the seats were empty as a standalone race for Xfinity wherever they go. It cannot be just solely driven off the fact that we need sponsor, because of the sponsor money, we need to give them the exposure and that sort of thing. There's got to be a component to this in my mind. Like you said, look at what we had 3-4 Cup drivers in it yesterday. When you look at that, so then you have to think, so is this really, let's get a bigger dog for them to chase. Are they trying to set the bar at where they'd like to see maybe these race teams or NASCAR wants to see these drivers in that Xfinity series elevated in terms of their driving skills and that sort of thing to be able to have much more exciting racing or a bigger draw or something like that? Because like I said, I don't get it. Why would you slide 4 or 5 drivers, especially the week prior when they stepped aside and said, I'm not running this race because I got my Cup car to drive tomorrow, right? So what do you do with that?
I
know we don't have the answer. I know we don't have the answer.
Yeah, I don't. I wish, I kind of wish I knew. And, like I said, I don't know. The Cup regulars stepping aside from Xfinity would really change the fate of a lot of the underfunded teams. And, let's face it, folks, if you're an underfunded team in the Cup garage, it's every bit as tough being an underfunded team in the Xfinity garage,
right,
or in the Camping World Truck Series garage, because overall the exposure goes down and so does the money. So in the Cup garage, you're still running. If you're running 30th or 40th place, you're still running a multi-million-dollar a year program.
We get it.
Just to finish last place or a lap or 2 or 3 laps down. Whereas in the Xfinity series, you're probably running about $1 million a year program, and may or may not finish on the lead lap. And Camping World Truck Series, maybe cut that in half. But I mean, that shows you how expensive the Cup Series is. So expensive. So we are in a way being held hostage to money, and I don't know that any sport can deny that. I mean, honestly, I hate to compare ourselves to stick and ball, but you've got people out there that are making 16, 17, $20 million a year to play football 16 games a year if they don't make it to the postseason.
Yeah. Well, I kind of wonder, that series and those races, who do they mean the most to? Is it the drivers? Is it the fans? Is it the team owners? Because whoever, again, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm playing devil's advocate. At the end of the day, if we're going to go around and we're going to race all these different races and we're going to create this chase for this series and everything else, what matters most out of that series? Is it the driver development? Is it the opportunity for maybe the teams to learn something different on a little bit different setup of a car and that sort of thing? Is it to give opportunities for everything from drivers, pit crews, crew chiefs, engineers, and everything else somewhere to cut their teeth? That to me, that's it. Again, we'll watch Xfinity races. I hate to say it. Most of the time, that's a DVR race for me, unless it's a doubleheader or something like yesterday. Still, I had to DVR that because I had grass to mow. But at the end of the day, certainly there's an element of excitement. We all like to get behind these young drivers that are up and coming and developing and that sort of thing. We certainly, as fans, can appreciate and enjoy that. But, I also think about a comment I saw on Twitter yesterday. It's like, how do you explain this to somebody to say, well, sorry, these guys got cut out of the next round of the chase because, well, I don't know, these veteran drivers were up there, making it difficult for them to get better track position.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, here's how I feel about it. And I tried to tune in to all three series when time affords me the opportunity. And now that we're in the chase, the different series are going to be even a little further separated as far as where they're racing track-wise.
Right.
So, Xfinity is racing kind of an odd schedule now. Camping World Truck Series is running even less. Cup Series is going to run every single weekend all the way up to Homestead, which I can't wait because that's going to be a legendary weekend.
It will be.
But that being said, I actually like watching Xfinity because I like watching the Jordan Andersons and the Ryan Ellises and the Cody Shane Wares, and I like watching those guys, and even young ladies when they're afforded the opportunity, have an opportunity to race in one of the top three series in motorsports.
Right.
In a way, I have a hard time.
I don't want to block your thought process there, but we got a caller on the line. I want to bring him on, make sure we don't lose him this time.
Oh man. So
this is it. Welcome to Right Sides Only Radio Podcast. You're on with Cliff and Evan. Who's this?
What's up, Cliff and Evan? This is Carlton.
Carlton, you made it this time. And
Carlton.
I answered.
Oh my God. This is America's NASCAR super fan.
Yeah. Dude.
Like they're
in person and live. This is the man you should all be jealous of something.
We don't
know what that is, but we should be jealous.
The fact that he makes like every other race, he gets to hang out with the heavy hitters.
Are you listening to the show tonight, Carlton?
Yes, sir.
How are we doing?
On a scale of 1 to 3.
You guys always do a good job.
What's up? Hey, so give us your perspective. You were out there at Charlotte this weekend, weren't you?
He saw it live.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So what'd you think?
I saw every mile yesterday.
Yeah.
I thought the Cup race was pretty awesome. Xfinity, not so much.
Because there was Cup drivers in there?
Green flag run. I don't mind the Cup driver so much. I kind of agree with Evan on the chase, though. You kind of want to see the Xfinity drivers battle it out, instead of a Cup driver winning.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that too. That's why I kind of posed that question of, what is it that's most important in the Xfinity series? Is it the fact that as fans we pick out some of these young up and comers, and we appreciate seeing them each week, challenge themselves and win races and that sort of thing? Is it that, or is it the fact that we have sponsors on the car and we have a duty to them? I guess what's your perspective? You agreed with Evan saying that you appreciate watching these young up and coming drivers do well, right?
Oh yeah, I do. But just look back to Daniel Suarez's first win. What did that mean to him passing Kyle Busch for the win?
Right.
That probably stands out the most.
Yeah.
To him, I would think.
So you think it gives and it gives them, those guys, kind of a little boost in their confidence when they're able to beat a Cup driver in that series.
Oh yeah. Well, look at Eric Jones. I mean, he's already going up the Cup series. Him battling Cup drivers every week will help him move up next year.
Sure.
They know how he races.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have a lot to look forward to with Eric Jones once he gets behind the wheel of his new team there.
So let me ask you, Carlton. You've been around racing for a long time, like since childhood, because you've actually, and people that are listening, just so you know, you got to follow at Carlton, because the guy goes to all the Cup garages anytime he gets the opportunity. And he's been there. I can tell you right now, this guy has probably been to the Hendrick shop about 1,000 times. And he always goes back, and he always finds something more interesting and more intriguing, and he's always willing to share it.
Right.
So that being said, you've been around the sport a long time, and you seem to have a very level-headed approach to the sport. That being said, what are your feelings about the current chase, the chase grid, if you will, the bracket series?
Well, honestly, you followed me on Twitter for a long time. I try to keep my opinions to myself.
Oh man,
they're welcome. They're welcomed here.
Yes, I haven't been a fan of the chase since the beginning, to be honest with you. I'm kind of a full season back to the Winston Cup days, and I just like to see a full season champion. I think it kind of takes away from what a driver does the full year, you know. Just take Harvick and Keselowski, for example, this year, you know. Look where Harvick's at now in the points, and he'd be second if it was still full year, you know.
Right.
He's at, 20-something top tens? That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You kind of get punished for having one bad race, which I don't like.
Well, you got 2 more opportunities to right yourself, but so does everybody else.
Oh yeah.
Well, I know that's a lot of. But some of these guys actually work hard the entire year just to win a race to punch their ticket into the chase.
Right.
So I think what Carlton says has a lot of validity, because now you're expecting them to compress that into 3 races, and oh, by the way, one of them happens to be a plate race.
Right. So what do you think? I mean, you think going into Kansas and then Talladega, I mean, what do you think? Do you think that fares badly for the 4-car and what they have ahead of them?
It probably does. I think the chase woke up a sleeping giant in Jimmy Johnson, so I consider him to be contender again. Somebody like that wins again, the pressure's on at Talladega.
Right. What'd you think? What'd you think of Chase's performance early on in that race yesterday? Did you agree that he was probably the second strongest Hendrick car out there?
Once Jimmy Johnson got the lead, I figured that was his to lose. Yeah. But Chase was gaining on him on one run, and then that restart just messed up everything. But
yeah,
Chase has been the quicker Hendrick car all year.
Sure.
And I'm surprised he hasn't won yet.
Right. How'd Charlotte fare with the weather and all that being rained out all weekend for Friday and Saturday? What was it like for you to get out there? Was it easy to do? Was traffic bad?
No, the traffic wasn't bad. I got my ways in and out, so I've been up there 4 times than I can count. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Saturday went up there. About the time I got there, they called the race, so I just went to some shops and did some other things with my dad. So
that's cool.
It was good, and then spent the whole day there yesterday.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So you're like one of 2 callers here. You get a Zip Air tool.
Let me ask you something before we turn you loose, Carlton. This is something I've actually been, and I do follow you on Twitter, and I like to consider us kind of social media friends. But that being said, other people don't know a whole lot about how your mind works. So that's kind of what I would like to give people, because you are such the consummate fan. I mean, you try really hard to keep your opinions to yourself. You stay out of the drama. You don't get in the big, whatever the flavor of the week is and whoever people are attacking. You just kind of distance yourself from all of it. So from a fan perspective, you were probably what I would consider to be like a fan council guy, like the person I would probably go to for some advice. That being said, what is it that keeps you coming back? Now, you have seen so many things over your span, all these years as being a fan. Drivers come and go, drivers retire, the passing of Dale Sr., all the different packages that NASCAR has brought to the table, all the drama and all the craziness. you coming back?
Believe it or not, I used to be a one or two driver person. It wasn't up until the last few years, actually about, I say last year I got my first taste of being in the garage and how nice and cool all the teams, all the drivers, everything about it was just cool and fun and friendly. So it's hard to dislike somebody after you've met them. So that's where I get my even keel from. I don't like to bash anybody now. There's still some I kind of dislike, but I'm not gonna blast that on Twitter or blast any driver or anything.
Right.
Just not the way I am.
Sure.
But I mean, what keeps you coming back? Because you go to quite a few races. I would venture off and say that you probably make maybe, I don't know, how many races do you make a season typically, on average?
I used to go to about 2 or 3 on average, and then last year I went to Talladega for the first time in like 12, 13, 14 years, and they were doing the 10K or the 100K Kims thing. And I was posting on Twitter, and everybody started liking it. So, I kind of got more of an addiction to the sport. And then I was like, I got every other weekend off. I'm going to start going to more races because I'm within like 6 hours of 7, 8 tracks. So it's not like I'm wasting a whole day driving up there.
Right.
It's just a few hundred miles and you're there. But like I said, it's the fan friendliness of the sport that keeps bringing me back. I love the sound, the smell, all of it.
Yeah.
I've met so many cool people. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You can't get that from any other sports.
Well, I agree with that wholeheartedly, Carlton. I mean, just being involved in, just Twitter alone. I mean, you look at Evan. I'm sitting here looking at this guy right now, and I'm going, 6 to 8 months ago, I didn't even know who this guy was. And I imagine
you were much better off. You're much better off. Yeah.
That is true, but at the same time,
right.
No, I mean, that's what's really cool about the community of NASCAR, and that's what you hit the nail on the head that I try to convey to a lot of people, and what Evan and I teasingly refer to as fangelism is, as a fan, taking that opportunity to express and talk about the things that you really like about the sport. And here's the one thing that, you hit the nail on the head with, highlighting the fact you meet people, you like being there with the sights and the smell and the action and all the stuff going on a race weekend and that sort of stuff. That's to me is what is what being a fan of this sport is all about. The accessibility we've talked about before. Like you said, you got into the garages. I mean, that's obviously, as a fan, taking you to the next level, and obviously created something in you to stay committed to trying to hit half a dozen races or something like that in a season and that sort of stuff. So, hats off to you because, like I said, I'm completely jealous of you watching you hit all these tracks each year, or at least this year everywhere you went, and the race shops and all that other sort of stuff. So, obviously being able to access that stuff so easily has got to be awesome as a race fan. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, and always sharing it with us on your Twitter and all that other sort of stuff, because it's really cool to see.
Well, I wouldn't do it if people didn't like it. Like I said, it only takes me about an hour and 15 minutes to get to Charlotte. So if I got a day off, I'm like, let's just go visit the race shops. You never know what you're going to run into. I run into drivers, crew chiefs. Like I said, it's one of the friendliest sports there is.
Yeah.
I've made a lot of friends, come to respect a bunch of drivers that I probably wouldn't have in the past, but that's what I love about it.
Yeah, it's really cool, dude.
That's awesome, Carlton. And I got, like I said, I can't thank you enough for the positive light that you bring to Twitter as far as NASCAR and all the support for Right Sides Only Radio on the Right Front Tire. You've always kind of stuck it out, and people, if you've never been to a NASCAR race, I can guarantee you that Carlton will solidify that you will absolutely, unequivocally never get more access in a professional sport to the people that actually participate than in NASCAR. They are absolutely accessible.
Yeah, We certainly appreciate that as fans having that.
Yeah.
Hey, Carlton, before we let you go, though, for Twitter folks, if you want to follow Carlton, it's @_Carlton, CARLTON. Carlton, you're also doing some photography stuff now, and you've gotten a website. You want to tell people about that and what they can go check out there?
Well, a while back, actually me and Evan were talking about doing something together, and then I kind of thought about doing something myself, you know. I think every race for the past 20 years, race shops, past 15 years or so, I've taken pictures. I got thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures. So I thought it'd be cool to share that on a website. I did myracingadventures.com. I'm not a writer by any means, but I like to share the pictures. People don't get to see that stuff. You don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what happens behind the scenes. So it's hard to do, but every once in a while I'll throw something out there for people to see.
Yeah, it's cool. Very cool. Well, we got to wrap this show up, Carlton. We certainly appreciate you calling in, sharing kind of your insights and feedback about the race this weekend. And as always, like I said, always love checking out your stuff on Twitter and that sort of thing. So,
well, I actually have all of Carlton's information pretty much, because I think I owe him some right front tire stuff to begin with. So I'll make sure I get up with Carlton and we get him some Zip Air Tool stuff.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I know he's been wanting to call. I think it's great that he did. And folks, if you're listening, go follow Carlton. He's really a great guy, and you're going to get a very, very, very neutral, very, very non-opinionated to NASCAR if you want to become a fan of the sport. He's a great guy to learn from. So.
Right. Yeah, so thanks a lot, Carlton.
Thank you.
We'll catch you on the flip side, bud.
Thank you.
All right, dude. Have a good
All
night.
right. Thanks.
You bet.
You know what's crazy is he's my hero.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude.
So I like him calling, it's like, my man, you know? Like, I want his autograph.
Yeah, dude, exactly. It's like, I want to go, dude, can I just get a ride with you wherever you're going? Because I know it's going to be cool.
I just want to hang out.
Yeah.
That's
No,
all.
Carlton, great.
I want to live the high life.
Yeah, no, that's what's cool, too, is you know, like he kind of hit on was, you know, as fans, Twitter, the accessibility to the sport, people's opinions, you know, we love stuff, we hate stuff, we talk about stuff. It's cool, dude. I mean, I'm telling you, it's a great sport. If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't checked out NASCAR and that sort of thing, take it from us as fans. We'll tell you what it's all about.
Absolutely. So, Cliff, we
Yes,
got
sir.
Kansas.
Kansas.
We got Kansas.
I know who I'm going to pick, but I'm going to let you go first because I'm going to steal it. I know it.
We have Kansas with a slightly different aero package. Right?
Yep.
You sure you know who I'm going to pick?
I do know who you're going to pick. I bet I'm going to write it down right here. Watch, I'll show it to you on the screen.
All right.
Here. Right here.
Well, you know, I hate to sell myself out.
What was it, Johnny Carson?
But I'm gonna have to go ahead and dance with the girl that I brought, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick with the 4-car.
Oh, damn, dude!
That's not what you. Actually, what you were thinking is I went ahead and doubled the number you were thinking of. That's what you were thinking. I'm gonna stick with Happy Harv. I'm just gonna go ahead and stick with Happy Harv. I gotta. Like I said, I'm gonna dance with the girl that I brought. So.
Oh, I'm not. I'll dump one and pick up a new one, dude.
Okay. All right.
This is mine.
I can't see it.
Oh, you can't, but they can. 20.
Okay.
It's the 20 car.
The old Matt Kenseth.
You know why, dude?
He's
He's been progressively strong, finishing really well the last few weeks and that sort of thing. Couple little pit road, bumps in the road or whatever, but I'm not writing him off. I think he's got this one.
Well, and y'all might recall, we had a little bit of an issue last year about this time between the 22 and the 20 car. So, like I said, I hope we don't. But yeah, this is where the tension mounts.
Sure, yeah. Oh, yeah, dude, I'm telling you, after we get out of this next weekend and we got Talladega to look forward to after that,
woo! Yeah, it's going to get really tight.
All I got to say is, dear God, please no. Is what I'd be thinking out there. So, no, it's good stuff. Well, we appreciate you guys listening to that Right Sides Only Radio podcast video. We're over on Facebook. Go search for Right Sides Only Radio there. Check out our video. Website, rightsidesonlyradio.com. I'm Cliff.
I'm Evan. Big shout out to Zip Air Tool USA.
Yeah.
Really, thank you for the support, Isaac and gang.
Yep.
And definitely, Carlton, thank you for calling in and participating in our show. Hopefully, other people on Twitter follow the trend. Follow Carlton.
Oh, yeah.
We love to hear from y'all.
Yep, you bet. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for listening.